All right, thank you so much. So today's meeting, we will have a PowerPoint presentation followed by a Q&A session. We will be utilizing the Q&A function. If you have a question, please do type it into our Q&A box, and we'll try to address all of the questions at the end of the meeting after the PowerPoint presentation is done. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Matt Snelson. Captain.
Good evening. Thank you, Amy. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight on such an important topic and welcome you on behalf of the Fremont Police Department and the City of Fremont. My name is Matt Snelson. I'm one of the 3 police captains here at the Police Department. And you may be wondering why a police captain is speaking tonight when we're talking about an animal ordinance. And the answer is that our Fremont Animal Services and our Tri-City Animal Shelter reside within the police department structure, and they're actually in my division. And so tonight you're going to be hearing from our manager, Kelly Myatt, who runs the animal shelter, runs the Fremont the Tri-City Animal Shelter and the Fremont Animal Services. And we'll be talking about a few things. So first of all, we're going to give you an overview of proposed changes to the city's animal ordinance. Then we're going to have an opportunity to answer any questions that we can answer tonight. But most importantly, we're here to listen and start taking note and feedback on the proposed ordinances and to make some decisions on what we think the community is looking for within these ordinances. So one thing that I want to highlight now, and we will highlight later, is the city just launched a survey today on our brand new community engagement platform called My Fremont. If you haven't had a chance to look at that yet, I'd encourage you to go and look at it. The survey will be open until September 15th, and at that time it'll close. We'll be taking all of the feedback, reviewing as staff to make sure that we're hearing and listening to the comments in the community. We'll also be sharing all of that feedback with our elected officials as we move forward towards the agendized item to review this draft ordinance and recommended changes at the council meeting scheduled for September 20th. So please, enjoy this conversation. Please feel free to ask questions at the end. And then we're really looking for your feedback through this great engagement platform, which again is called My Fremont. So lastly, and Amy hit it, but I wanted to remind you that tonight you won't be able to ask questions through the chat feature. And unfortunately, because of the world of Zoom bombing, we're not able to get on and actually go back and forth on a platform like this these days. So we're going to utilize the Q&A feature that's built into this Zoom webinar. So please use the Q&A feature, ask any questions that you have, and we'll try to address any answers that we have immediately tonight. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to our manager, Kelly Myatt.
Hi, thanks for being here tonight. I really appreciate having you all here, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and input on these proposed ordinance changes. My name is Kelly Myatt. I'm the manager of Fremont Animal Services and the Tri-City Animal Shelter. I will go through a brief presentation, and we will have times for questions and answers, as Captain Snelson mentioned, relating to these topics in the end. So in 1976, the city of Fremont adopted Title IX Animals of the Municipal Code to protect the safety of its citizens and to promote the general welfare of the citizens and animals residing within the city. It wasn't amended again until 1997. In 2018, the city of Fremont substantially amended Title VI of the Municipal Code to update the ordinances and the amendments that were passed, and they were passed by consent. In July 2021, the City Council requested that staff review ordinances of other cities that promote urban agriculture and the keeping of livestock in residentially zoned areas, and to come back to Council with proposed amendments to Fremont's animal ordinance, allowing the keeping of 2 goats and any other amendments deemed consistent for the goal of encouraging urban agriculture. The proposed amendments to Title VI provides these changes for keeping of animals for urban farming, including permitting goats in residential areas. Next slide, please, Amy. So this is an outline of the current chicken ordinance. Currently, there are no restrictions on the housing of chickens near the adjacent property line. A permit is required for chicken owners once they have more than 6 chickens. The permitting process involves an application and the city coordinating an inspection by an animal services officer. Permits cost $122 for 1 year, $153 for 2 years, and $184 for a 3-year permit. These permit fees are the same for all permits we will be discussing in this presentation. Next slide, Amy. The proposed amendment includes definitions for chicken enclosures and shelter. The enclosure where chickens are kept must be a minimum size of 10 square feet of permeable land per chicken. The enclosure where chickens are kept must be located at least a minimum distance away from another person's property line. On real property zone residential, a pet owner shall obtain a permit pursuant to this chapter to have more than 6 chickens. The number of chickens allowed shall be based on the lot size as follows. Lots with an area of 10,000 square feet or more, not more than 10 chickens. Lots with an area of 1/2 acre or more, not more than 15 chickens. The proposal also includes removing chickens from section 64030. It would now read, on real property zone residential, a pet owner shall obtain a permit pursuant to this chapter to have more than 6 pigeons, doves, or rabbits. So we remove chickens from that, and now we are putting pigeons, doves, and rabbits in their own category without chickens. Next slide, please, Amy. The shelter for any animal must be adequately lighted to provide regular diurnal lighting cycles of natural or artificial light uniformly diffused throughout the shelter, and sufficient illumination for routine inspections and maintenance of the animal. It must also be situated to prevent exposing the animal to unreasonably loud noise or teasing, abuse, or injury by another animal or person. Next slide, Amy. The animal shall be able to defecate and urinate away from the shelter. Wherever animals are permitted to be kept or maintained in the city, no person so seeking or maintaining such animals shall fail at any time to keep the coops, pens, or yard wherein such animals are enclosed in a clean and sanitary condition, nor shall fail to remove the manure or other debris from such enclosures daily. All feed for any animal shall be stored in containers which offer protection against rodents and insects. No enclosure or shelter shall be located in the front yard of the property where the animals are kept. Next slide, please, Amy. So this is the current and proposed goat ordinance. So as of 2018, we removed the permitting process for goat ownership within the city of Fremont. We are proposing that residents be allowed to keep 2 goats, a minimum of 10 feet from any property line, and they would be allowed to have goats on a square footage of 10,000 or more square feet. Next slide, Amy. The regulations would include that exactly 2 live goats may be kept only on a residential property with a lot size of 10,000 square feet or more within the city. All goats shall be microchipped. Food produced by live goats shall be for personal consumption only by members of permittee's household and shall not be sold, donated, or otherwise distributed to any other person. Male goats shall be neutered. No person shall keep or maintain any goat in the city within 10 feet of any other person's dwelling. And the enclosure must be a minimum size of 250 square feet of permeable land for the keeping of 2 miniature goats, commonly known as pygmy and dwarf goats, or 500 square feet of permeable land for the keeping of any other combination of miniature or non-miniature goats. Next slide. The other thing that we looked into was our current beehive ordinance. And as you'll see, the current one has a lot of restrictions on the number of beehives and the lot square footage. The proposed ordinance would allow for 4 beehives, a minimum distance of 5 feet from any fence line with a permit required. Next slide, Amy. So no more than 4 beehives may be established or maintained on any residential property within the city. Any person intending to establish or maintain any beehive on any residential property within the city must first register with the County of Alameda and provide a copy of such registration to the animal services manager. Beehive entrances shall face away from the nearest property lines. Beehives must either be screened so that the bees must fly over a 6-foot barrier, which may be vegetative, before leaving the property, or be placed at least 8 feet above the adjacent ground level. Beehives are not permitted on multi-family balconies or patios, and a beehive shall be located a minimum of 25 feet from any dwelling on any adjacent property. Again, this is a proposed ordinance. This isn't into effect yet, but this is what the city is proposing. Next slide, Amy. We also have some other proposed animal ordinance amendments. So the first one is the animal services manager has discretion to waive these costs, the redemption costs in cases of financial hardships, as the fees would impose an economic hardship for the owner. We want animals to be with their owners. If we learned anything from the pandemic, having our pets with us is mutually beneficial. So we would like for the manager to be able to allow an owner to redeem their animal with the fees waived for the cost of impounding. The city may decide disposition of an impounded animal that is not retrieved by its owner within three. The city may decide disposition of an impounded animal that is not retrieved by its owner within 3 days, not including the day of impoundment. I'm sorry, this is reading incorrectly. So right now it's 4 business days, and we want to change it to 3 days, not including the day of impoundment. So changes to the time the animal is in the shelter is beneficial for the animals. We can move them to our adoption partners faster. In the event an owner couldn't make it to the shelter right away to pick up their animal, we would continue to hold on to them like we currently do. Our staff is available 7 days a week to care for the animals, and we do currently redeem animals on days we are closed to the public. The idea behind this is that we want to get the animals in, get them returned to their owner, or get them out to adoption as quickly as possible to reduce the stress on the animals and to make more time for the animals that really need to be in the shelter environment. So the idea is to keep the highly adoptable animals, highly placeable animals moving through the shelter system, getting the animals that can be returned to the owner back to the owner, and then giving more time for the animals that may not be as placeable for adoption to have more time in the shelter and have really good care. And then finally, every person who owns, maintains, or boards a dog 3 months of age or older must cause that dog to be vaccinated and revaccinated with a state-approved anti-rabies vaccine within the time periods prescribed by state law or regulation. We are going to be changing the anti-rabies vaccination age for dogs from 4 months in age to 3 months of age, which will align us with the California Health and Safety Code. Next slide, please, Amy. The final proposed animal ordinance amendment is to remedy an inconsistency between animal regulations regarding dog leash length and Title VI animals and Chapter 1220 regarding parks. The dog owner or person with a right to control a dog must keep the dog under direct physical restraint by means of a leash not to exceed 6 feet in length when the dog is on any public street, public sidewalk, other public place, event on public property, or at any private place or property or common area of any planned development cluster, townhouse, or on any condominium project without the consent of the owner or person in control thereof. Next slide, Amy. So I've gotten through quite a bit of ordinance changes and proposals. So now we have times for any questions and answers. And this process will be moderated by Amy and Captain Snelson. So I'm looking at questions.
Hi, everyone. We will now start the Q&A session. So if it helps, Kelly, I can read you the questions.
Yeah, it definitely does. Thank you.
Okay. First one is more like a combination of comments and questions. So the comment is, I don't understand why goats and chickens would be treated different than standard pets like dogs. Requiring a gap between the pens, coops, and property lines seems unnecessary given that dogs are allowed to go up to property lines. As long as these animals are treated humanely and not a nuisance to neighbors, I think enclosures should be allowed to abut property lines.
That is really great feedback, and it's a really good question. Again, the engagement tool would be a really good place to put that, because these are the proposals from us, and City Council will be reviewing the feedback and making the recommendations. So that would be a very good question, and we can look more into that. Captain Snelson, do you have anything to add on that?
I don't.
Okay.
All right, great. Next one. I'm concerned about the reduction of days for deciding disposition of animals. Seems like a way that would lead to quicker euthanasia. Sorry. Can you talk more about that?
So quicker euthanasia, I understand that there's always a concern about that. I want you to know that our shelter is above the national average of returning dogs to their owner. Last year, we returned dogs to their owner at a rate of 75%, which is well above the national average. We also had a live release rate, and this is all on the City of Fremont's public facing statistics page. 90% live release rate for cats and 91% live release rate for dogs. We worked with 46 nonprofit partners and had 444 kids in our foster program alone last year, with 63 families volunteering to foster. So it's not our plan that we are going to be euthanizing at all. In fact, what we're trying to do is to buy time for the animals that are in our care that need extra support, either behaviorally or medically, or as you may have been seeing in the news, that the big dogs are lingering in shelters now. Adoptions have really slowed down since people have started to return to work from the pandemic. I also want to let you know all the things that our staff does once a dog does enter our facility. So they look at loss reports that are submitted from our website. They also look at loss reports from other third-party websites where people are reporting that their animals are lost for the community to help them try to find them. We look on Nextdoor, we look on social media. We have facial recognition software for dogs that is automatically scanning dogs upon impound and doing work for us on its own without our intervention. The officers, when they find an animal that is at large, they will drive around the neighborhood before bringing it back to the shelter, because we have learned that officers usually will find an owner 2 or 3 blocks away that's frantically on the street running around looking for their lost dog. So if we can get the dog back to its owner without even bringing it to the shelter, all the better. So our officers will do that out in the field. We also started during the pandemic posting found animals on social media. We call multiple microchip databases. We scan the animal more than once to look for a microchip. We look for tags, licenses. We call our partners. I'm trying to reassure you that we want them in and out as quickly as possible, so we have more animal room for those animals that really need the space. This is not a call for us to be able to euthanize, and I will promise you that I don't have anyone on my team that is interested in euthanizing animals. We are all trying to save as many of these animals and place them as healthily and safely as we can. I see one at the top from Joan Morris. What about roosters? Will they be permitted? No. No crowing fowl will be allowed to be owned in Fremont. Joan again, with the economic downturn, are you seeing an increase in surrendered pets? And if so, is that causing any difficulty for the shelter? Do you offer any financial assistance or have a food bank to help low-income pet owners? Great question. So we are not seeing an increase in the shelter of surrendered pets, but we do participate in a website called Home to Home that we have linked on our website, where someone who wants to rehome their animal for whatever reason can try to find another person to adopt it without it entering our facility. And I do approve all those postings, and I am seeing people who are posting on there that they're returning to work. And a lot of them are trying to rehome on their own, which we really appreciate, because it's really stressful. No matter how great the shelter environment is, it's really stressful for animals to be in a shelter environment. And yes, it can cause difficulty for us, but what we're trying to do is provide as many resources for the owner, because look, no one wants to have to rehome an animal they've fallen in love with. So if we can help them have as many options and know as many tools that are available to them so that they can personally place their animal. It's better all the way around. We do not offer financial assistance, but we do have donated food at our shelter. So if someone comes in and needs any food, we will provide them food and resources. And we work with local nonprofits here. So when people donate to us and we can't use it, we will have partners come. Right now we have one that comes once a month and they pick it up and then they distribute it through their food bank. So we're not replicating efforts. We're trying to help other organizations that specialize in certain areas be successful, providing that resource for the community. Can we add quail to the list of allowed small animals? Yes, they are in there already. So we didn't need to touch that code. In fact, if you're interested, we have a quail available for adoption right now. So it's sitting in our building. So if anyone's a quail adopter, we have one. We also have a parakeet, and I'm trying to think of what other unusual animals we're trying to place. Rabbits, and we're probably going to be getting some guinea pigs in as well. So we have a lot, not just cats and dogs. Goats can get rabies. Given the large wild skunk population in Fremont, and we all know skunks can have rabies, do you plan on having goats be immunized against rabies? I went to business school. I did not go to medical school. So that would be something that I would really appreciate you putting into the community survey so that we can look into it further with some experts. While we all like dogs, some dog owners don't pick up its poop on others' property or sidewalks. How can we prevent this and/or fines such as owners when proof of such behavior can be presented as pictures or video? This is not part of the conversation tonight, but I would love for you to use that engagement tool to provide that feedback so I can get back to you with some more information about that. What happens to the animal if the rescues are full and can't take the animal? Great question. The animals sit at our shelter until we can place them. So I will tell you that in our shelter, the animals, the dogs specifically, get out twice a day. They get a walk in the morning and they get a walk in the afternoon. And we have lots of different enrichment opportunities for them. We have bubbles, we have music, we have Kongs, we make popsicles. The staff does a lot of great things to keep up with the animals' enrichment. We even will let the dogs play with each other once we match their personalities, but we can only do so much. So we are constantly trying to keep these dogs mentally stimulated so they don't decompose in our facility. Sorry, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, but we're trying to keep them mentally stimulated so that they don't become like you've seen in the old zoos where the animals start walking and pacing in their kennels. So we tend to keep the animals. We are tending to show that larger dogs are staying about 2 months right now, which for us is long. Some other shelters we see have dogs much longer, but we will keep them as long as they're doing great. And we are constantly reaching out to network partners, adoption partners. We've taken dogs as far away as Santa Cruz and Tahoe. We've gone to Sacramento. We had a dog that was sick this week that I personally drove to Davis over the weekend. So we are doing everything we can to give these animals as much care as we possibly can provide while they're with us. So we continue to always need help with networking, but anything you can do to share the animals that are available for adoption on our Instagram and Facebook pages, those are our two ones that we use the most. And then next door, when we publicize adoption promotions, would be super helpful to help us get the word out. We are definitely seeing an influx of German Shepherds and Husky type dogs. And those tend to really need a lot of activity. So the more you can help us get the word out, the more we would really appreciate it. But we do not euthanize for time and space. I want to make that very clear. We only euthanize when an animal is severely sick or severely injured or dangerous. So we are not going to place dangerous animals in the community if it has a documented history of being dangerous or having dangerous behavior that is above and beyond like a fear bite. A fear bite we will definitely talk about, but an aggressive, dangerous animal we will not place for adoption. Do all the measures you described for how you handle dogs and trying to find their owners also apply to lost cats? Yes, we do as much networking for lost cats, and we will also drive them around in the truck. So thank you for asking about that as well. Unfortunately, the return to owner rate for cats is less than 5%. And our industry has been doing a lot of research on why that is. The theory in general is that the cats, go missing and the owners don't realize right away that they're missing, and they don't automatically go looking at an animal shelter. They probably look around their neighborhood or wait for the cat to come home. So we actually encourage people when they've lost their cat to look within a really close area of their house to try to locate their cat. And I actually took a training during the pandemic that I've linked to on our website for locating a lost cat. That gives a lot of great, really grassroots tips on how to try to locate cats. Their behavior is very different than dogs. So if you ever do lose your cat, there is a really great link on our website for information on how to try to find your cat. When properties have been inspected in the past, the inspection has been done by an animal police officer. Can we have animal services officers inspect instead? So I think there's some confusion about that, which Captain Snelson alluded to in the beginning. They are animal services officers. They do have a Fremont police badge, but they are animal services officers. I don't think we would have ever had an armed police officer visiting for inspections. Captain Snelson, can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't recall a specific incident. If we did have a police officer present along with animal services, it would be because we would have, safety concerns and making sure that our staff, our animal services staff is safe, as they carry forward their inspection. So that is definitely not the norm, but I could foresee some circumstances where, again, for the safety of our animal service officers, we may have officers come along with them.
Okay, I'm going to skip down to Nikki because I know she's in the bee community. So you connected late and had a wrong login. Can we ask questions at any time? So we're asking them in the chat. You'd like to comment on the beekeeping regulation proposal, but not sure if it's been discussed yet. So it has been discussed. And the proposal in general is to allow 4 beehives with no restriction on the property size, with a 6-foot flyaway. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Hold on a second. Hold on one second. So the beehives must either be screened so that the bees must fly over a 6-foot barrier, which may be vegetative, before leaving the property, or be placed at least 8 feet above the adjacent ground level. Their beehives would not be permitted on multifamily balconies or patios, and it must be located a minimum of 25 feet from any dwelling on an adjacent property. And then a beehive entrance shall face away from the nearest property line. So I hope that answers your question, Nikki, and I bet you'll have more. So I'm going to go on to the next question. Way confused on the logic of reducing the stress in number of days. I would think it would be more stressful for them to go to an adoption agency than having them go back to the owner. Why change the days, business days? So we have staff there 7 days a week. We have to feed and take care of the animals every day, even when we're closed to the public. So the way the code is right now, it's 4 business days. But because we're open Tuesday through Saturday, that means it's actually 7 days that the animal stays at the facility. So we're proposing 3 days because we want to get the animals to move in and out as fast as possible. Now, just because I'm saying they could go to an adoption agency doesn't mean, especially right now, that they would immediately go to an adoption agency. And our first way that we want to get animals out is always through back to their owner. So if we have any indication that the owner is in the hospital or has a family emergency, is on vacation, we will absolutely hold the animal. We are not going to cruelly place the animal. We will keep it in our care as long as they need the help and can pay to redeem the animal. But what we're saying is for those animals that we know, and after you've been in this business for a while, you start to know on impound that this animal is probably not going to get redeemed by its owner. It's just an intuition we have after doing this work for as long as we have. Those animals that are hard to place, those are the ones that we want, if an adoption partner is interested in pulling, to be able to get them in and out as fast as possible. A lot of the groups we work with have foster homes. So what they would be doing is taking a large dog and putting it into a home until it was found a forever family. We're not trying to place animals just for the sake of getting them out of our shelter. And in fact, we will consider that a dog who might not be doing well in our kennel environment shouldn't go to another partner that's just going to kennel it. So we also will have those communications with other partners to try to have the best outcome for that animal. A 5,999 square foot lot can't have any chickens, but a 6,000 square foot lot can have 6. Can there be a step down like 5,000 square feet can have 5, 4,000 square feet can have 4? That'd be a fantastic thing to put into the community survey. Absolutely put that into the community surveys for that feedback. Are there particular donations that would help the shelter besides food? Oh, what a wonderful question. So if you go to our website, Tri-City Animal Shelter /donate, we have projects that scouts can do. We have in-kind donations. We have a wish list. And we also do take monetary donations. We are not a 501c3 though, so I just want to make that very clear. We do not have a nonprofit arm. But the donations go for expensive medical treatment. Like right now, we have a purebred mastiff in the shelter that has entropion in both eyes, and we're going to be getting a specialty eye surgery. So the donations that we get to the shelter would go for specialized surgery like that for the dog. It's a super sweet mastiff. She's a really big girl and just lovely, and we know we'll be able to find her a home, but she's in a lot of pain and her eyes haven't been addressed. So that's a specialty surgery. We also have a puppy that has a blockage right now between its kidney and its bladder. And we got it up to a world-class veterinarian up in UC Davis, and they're monitoring it until this coming Wednesday to find out if it has an infection or if there's a blockage. And if there's a blockage, it's gonna have this really unusual surgery. They're gonna do a bypass of its ureter. I know saying a lot of things that I've learned in the last week myself, but that surgery is going to be thousands and thousands of dollars, but this puppy is super placeable. And we know that if he gets the surgery, he's going to be a really good adoption candidate. So we do use those donations for special cases like that. And we will be posting his story. He has quite a story. He's been through quite a few families of foster homes already. And it'll be really great to see him come out on the other side. Additionally, you indicated that goats could possibly be used for food. What regulations are in place for the harvesting of goats? That's a good question. Please put that into this survey so we can consider that with our council. Did you consider changing the beekeeping ordinance to nuisance only, as is the case in many, if not most, other Bay Area cities? I do know that through my research that was something that that is very common in other cities. And I would really appreciate your feedback on that in our community survey. We discussed it, but we went with the way that it is right now. But again, would really appreciate that feedback. There appears to be some confusion on where the shelter stands with taking in kittens and cats. Postings on Nextdoor have stated that the shelter would not take 5-month-old cat or kittens that were 9 weeks old. In both cases, the post stated the animals were not feral. Not sure if there's any truth of what I am seeing on Nextdoor. So this is a really hard thing to communicate, but it depends on the day, and it can change from day to day if we have space or foster families available. A week ago, we didn't have very many kittens in the shelter. This week, I have pages of kittens that we're trying to find adoption homes for. So what we're trying to do is to ask the community if they can try to rehome these animals and these cats on their own without them having to come into the shelter system. I didn't mention cat enrichment earlier, and I'm glad this came up. We do have a cattery where we will put cats to live co-housed together. They have all the glories of home, but these are cats that have been in the system for a little bit. We haven't been able to place them. They have all the toys. We've even had staff people from the police department come over and have meetings in the room, and the cats just get to socialize with people while we try to place them. Our partners have been pulling a lot of kittens, and they do tell us that Fremont has some really great kittens, but it really depends on our staffing levels and what we're able to accommodate. And right now we're having some staffing challenges. So bringing kittens into the building is not always the most feasible thing based on staffing levels. It doesn't mean not ever, it just means not right now. Can you update North Fremont Dog Park possibility? Can you put that into the survey? I definitely have spoken to the Parks Department about adding a dog park to the city. The city has expanded, and we recognize we work right next to Central Dog Park. It's very busy. And I have mentioned that to Parks, and they mentioned that it's been brought up in some of their meetings as well. I do not have say over adding a dog park. That is definitely a Parks and Rec situation, something that you would have to bring up with them. But you could also add that into our community survey at the end for comments if you would like, and I can follow up with you on that.
Yeah, and Kelly, we received that question earlier as well.
Okay.
I'll paste the, there's a 2022 Parks and Recreation Master Plan that's available. It does speak towards the dog parks. It doesn't give the specificity that I think you're looking for there. The person asking the question about, timing and specific location, but it does indicate that the conversation is happening. And as Kelly mentioned, we have great partners in Park and Recreation, and that's going to be their lead as far as where to find that. And we're going to partner with them, in that conversation. So we're definitely open to it. It's something that the city needs to engage in and make some decisions if we are going to be able to prioritize that, what funding sources we would have and where that location would be. So as Kelly mentioned, that's absolutely part of why we're asking for these survey responses, because these kinds of questions and input definitely help us as we continue to try to move the community forward. So thank you for that. I'll paste the link in the chat as well for those that can't get it out of the Q&A function.
Thank you, Captain Snelson. I'm very concerned about all the feral cats behind the library having all these kittens. I do notice newborn and all the ferals with the new kittens around Lake Elizabeth. I am very concerned. Will you be doing any spaying or neutering, please? So unfortunately, we do not have a veterinarian in the shelter. We rely on contract veterinarians, and nationally, and specifically even worse in the state of California, there is a veterinary shortage. So we don't have anyone in-house we don't have a veterinarian in-house right now. So we are getting close to finalizing a contract with a contract veterinarian, and we will be helping out more. We recognize that in this community, there is a lack of spay-neuter resources, and we do talk to the veterinary community frequently about that. In fact, the animals we're adopting right now out of the shelter, we are transporting to Dublin for spay-neuter ourselves. So we're right in the same boat as the community is with a lack of resources. All that being said, I would love for you to reach out to us through animal services at fremont.gov. That's our email account for our officers. Again, it's animal services at fremont.gov. And let them know that there are newborn kittens behind the library, and we can send someone out there to try to figure out the source and why kittens are being born there. And then as far as Lake Elizabeth goes, we do work really closely with the park rangers. So if you have any idea specifically where these kittens are being born or what hours of the day you're seeing them, if you're seeing people feeding them, the rangers are trying to work with us on getting the population of cats down around Lake Elizabeth. And I will tell you, during the pandemic, we did have some resources available, and we did do some spaying and neutering of the community cats that were living around Lake Elizabeth to try to get the population down. So it really concerns me that there might be some kittens being born there still. So please reach out to us about those locations and what information you have to help us help those cats. Are any plans for feral cat surgery days used for this surgery van? I would love to. If any veterinarians are on here and want to contract with the city and help us out with spay neuter, please reach out to me. You can reach me at kmyatt@fremont.gov. You can also Google me, and there's a link to me within the police department's website. But yes, we would love to do more community cat spay neuter days. We don't currently have a use for the surgery van and we do have an RV, but, and I do work with other partners who may be interested in using it. So I'm not just hiding it away in a corner. If someone wants to use it, we are more than happy to provide it. But in speaking with other shelters and other community partners, we're all in the same boat of really having a lack of veterinarians in this community. So any support you can lend to helping us find veterinary staff would be appreciated. The proposed changes are severely restrictive for currently licensed beekeepers with lot sizes larger than 1 acre and who currently peacefully manage more than 4 beehives on their properties. It does not make sense to place additional restrictions on these residents. Can you please provide more feedback?
Kelly,
Yes.
Kelly, could I respond to that? This
Yes,
is Bron.
please.
So if you currently have a permit, you will continue to have that permit. It will be grandfathered in. You will not have to be reduced down to 4 beehives. You get to keep your permit as long as you are still following all the conditions of the permit.
Thank you. That's our Bronwyn Lacey, our assistant city attorney. Did I get your title right, Bronwyn?
No, you gave me a promotion. So
Oh, congratulations. I do that too.
I'm the senior deputy city attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bronwyn. Will the city consider accepting titers to over vaccination of our pets in the future? Since we talked about rabies, can you please put that into the Engage Fremont tool that's in the chat? I'm assuming that you're asking about cats, but can you please give me more information about that to look into? The proposed beehive entrance placement restrictions do not take into consideration properties bordering open space and undeveloped lots. So we did talk about this, and I would love for you to put this into the comments for in the survey tool. It is definitely something that we discussed when we were bringing up these proposed ordinance amendments. Keep permit forever or just until the current permit expires? Keep permit forever. So if you have
Well,
5 feet.
so hold on.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Kelly. So I think as it reads right now, it's keep permit until it expires, and then you have to come in and apply for a new permit, and that would be under the new regulations. However, we could make some changes to the ordinance so that any current permits are considered grandfathered in, and they would just need to be re-upped. So that might be something you want to put into the community survey so we can take a look at that.
Thank you again, newly promoted. I think we got through all of the questions. Oh, has the city ever addressed the high number of apartment rentals that do not allow pets or charge exorbitant amounts to allow pets? I'm asking because when I talk to people about adopting, they tell me their rental does not allow pets. This is a statewide problem that we speak about a lot in this industry. If anyone on this call knows any property management, property owners within the city that are building these new properties, I would love to talk to them about waiving their deposit, their pet deposit, if someone adopts from the animal shelter. I did this promotion at a shelter I previously worked at in Southern California, and it was awesome. We took all the animals to the apartment complex and got them homes, and they didn't have to pay a deposit on their having a pet in the apartment complex. So it was a win-win for everyone, and people were really excited. So as a city, no, that is not something that we can work on, or that we can, that's not something that I can personally do, but it's my creative solution is to work with these people that are building these new properties to have some sort of an adoption program to help place the animals in the shelter. And yes, it is a problem in the state of California that a lot of places do not allow people to own pets and rentals. I totally agree. It's a huge problem.
And I just want to add that the city has no authority to force other property owners to allow pets on their property.
Thank you.
And it's not just Kelly that can't force people to do that.
Thank you, Bronwyn.
So I don't see any other questions. I'll take a moment here. Kelly, I just wanted to thank you for your time and efforts, both in working with Bronwyn and the rest of the city team on this proposed ordinance, as well as the insight and the knowledge that you've shared tonight. I think your passion has definitely come across tonight. We appreciate all the work that you do in the Animal Services Unit, you and your team. And to the community that's joined us tonight, we very much appreciate you joining, you engaging in this conversation. We are listening. We do encourage you to express all of your thoughts, all of your feedback on our survey. It will be, again, closing on the 15th. We as a staff will be reviewing all of that feedback, and the council will also have all of that feedback as we move towards our September 20th council date. So again, thank you very much. And Kelly, appreciate your time. Bronwyn and Amy, thank you so much for organizing.
There's one more question that just popped in about, maybe you can answer this, Amy? About where the transcript for the meeting can be found?
So the meeting is being recorded. We will put up the recording of the meeting on the website in a couple of days. It does take a couple of days for us to get it ready. We do have to get it officially closed captioned and verify that the captioning is accurate. So in a few days, it will be on our police department website and you can access the recording.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate. I'm eager to hear feedback, and I can't wait to make some of these great changes. And please continue to support our shelter. You can find us at tricityanimalshelter.gov and .org. Sorry, tricityanimalshelter.org. And there's lots of helpful resources on there as well. And there's ways to contact us. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you all. Goodbye.